Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the change in face of the African American church at the 21st century. And we have with us as our guest this morning, Dr. LBaldwin, to talk about how the African American church has changed over the last century. And of course, Dr. Baldwin, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you.
To tell you how delighted we are to have you. But as I say each time, that you've been with us so many times, to talk about your background, your education, and your experience. I'm sure that all of our members of our audience understand who you are and the many, many, many books that you've written and your scholarship and et cetera. But for the sake of the audience, the sake of those few who might not know you, let's have you to give us some information in reference to your background, your education, and some of your experiences, and then we'll get into the change in face of the African American church at the 21st century. Let's do it from that perspective.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me here first, and it's great to be here during Black History Month.
It is.
I grew up in Wilcox County, Alabama, Camden, Alabama in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. Deep roots in the African American church, particularly Southern Black Baptist Protestantism. I matriculated at the public schools in Camden, Alabama in the 1950s and graduated from Camden High School in 1967. And of course from there I matriculated at Talladega College in Alabama, was there 4 years, ultimately receiving a BA in history from Talladega. From there to Crozer Theological Seminary in Rochester, New York, where I received the MA in 1973 and the MDiv, Master of Divinity, in 1975. And from there to Northwestern University, where I was awarded the PhD in American Religion in 1980. So my educational pilgrimage has really occurred very much in connection with the Black church. Both are inseparable as far as I'm concerned, in terms of my own development.
As a matter of fact, you at one time said that your father was involved in preaching. Did you tell us that?
Yeah, that's right. My father was a pastor in Wilcox County, Alabama, or Butler County, Alabama. He also felt that his ministry related very much to civil rights. So he was a force in the Black church in Alabama.
Very good. And so let's talk about the African American church, Dr. Baldwin, and to sort of start us off at the period of slavery. I mean, you know, we talk about the African American church and et cetera, but during slavery, Africans did not have an organized institution as a church. But nevertheless, they did have, speak to it from that perspective.
Exactly. In the South particularly. Now, you did have in the antebellum North the development of institutional Black churches. But in the South, we had essentially the invisible institution of the slaves, where they met in the woods and the thickets and the ravines to worship their God and to give expression to their spirituality. So you had in the South the invisible institution, and in the North the more visible institutions in terms of the institutional church. But in the pre-Civil War years, we know that Black religion developed along both lines. But after the Civil War, you get, with the Emancipation Proclamation, you get the freedom of African Americans in the South, and then institutional church developments began to occur throughout the country. So since the period of Reconstruction, I think we can speak of the Black church as a national phenomenon, spilling over into the North and the South. And that institution, of course, has taken on structural form and also a sense of mission since the Reconstruction period.
And so the African American church that we're going to talk about today has a changed face in the 21st century. Why don't you, and I guess we're getting ready for our second commercial break, but when we come back, what I'd like for you to do is to look at the face of the African